If you've ever wanted to experience encounters of beings from alternate dimensions, then this is the right video for you. I'm going to share with you the story of whenever I met the being known as Mother Ayahuasca during an ayahuasca ceremony. And I'm going to share with you the shocking message that she gave to me in response to my question of how someone can actually encounter these beings, spirits, and entities from alternate dimensions. When I first encountered Mother Ayahuasca, it appeared as if I was sitting on the floor of a rainforest, just feeling the dirt and the vegetation that I was surrounded by, hearing the different animals and the birds chirping. It felt as if I was completely in that world. And it was interesting to see somebody sitting right in front of me, sort of mirroring what I was doing. But it was clearly the being known as Mother Ayahuasca. It was a feminine figure, very much appearing to be like a human, but the details of her face and the details of her body were much more abstract. It was clearly obvious that she was a spirit of sorts, not wearing clothes. She just had the form of something recognizable to humans. And it was just very clear and obvious to me that this was a feminine figure, one that had been spoken about many, many times during these ayahuasca ceremonies known as Mother Ayahuasca. And so it was explained to me at that point that the purpose of the jungle medicine ayahuasca was to enable someone to experience the present moment long enough that they can see what they've been running away from the entire time. And in that realization of what they've been running away from, that is the doorway through which the encounters of beings can be allowed into, because it's as if doors are closed whenever we are not presently aware of all of the chaos that's going on in our lives. If we're just turning a blind eye to it, we're not opening ourselves up for information to enter into our awareness about it. So by going into those uncomfortable circumstances and opening up those doors, that is whenever interdimensional beings walk through them and have communications letting us know more information from higher dimensions about what we're currently experiencing and about what's happening in the world around us. This encounter was after several stages, several events that I had to pass through in order to reach what appeared to be the ending experience, which was meeting Mother Ayahuasca. Now, these experiences were very similar to what you might have seen in the Harry Potter movie, the original one, towards the end, where they start exploring all the different rooms of Hogwarts and they encounter things like a multi-headed dog. They have to pass through a tunnel of vines that wrap around them whenever they're struggling, and so they have to let go in order to pass through them. It's called the Devil's Snare. I experienced events that were very similar to this, and then the ultimate end result was meeting Mother Ayahuasca. Sitting in my half lotus meditation posture during the ayahuasca experience was incredibly helpful for me in passing through those stages, and that most people aren't so willingly and freely passing through those stages. They get caught up because it's like levels of thought that we have to break through in order to reach deeper and deeper understandings of the mechanisms that are controlling the decisions that we are making. The thoughts that we're having to pass through them in order to understand them better and get what things are actually influencing the decisions that we're making. So I'm going through all those stages very quickly, and Mother Ayahuasca is sharing with me, you're on the right path doing what you are doing. And so I asked her, I was very interested to know, is it that people have to be intoxicated like during an ayahuasca ceremony in order to communicate with beings such as yourself so that we can have these types of experiences and gain this deep level of insight into ourselves and of the world around us. And what Mother Ayahuasca returned back to me, which I think is so important, so profound, especially in this time, is that it is always happening, that we're surrounded by these beings, these spirits, and these entities. It's all in the present moment where they are. But in the modern culture that we are living in, we are programmed to shift our attention away from the present moment and constantly be thinking perpetually either about events that may happen in the future or may have happened in the past. It's in that programming that has prevented us from being still and returning our attention to the present moment where all of the communication with these beings can take place. If we cannot be still and present in this moment, then we cannot have access to the beings to communicate with them, because they're not in the future, they're not in the past, they are right here on this plane of consciousness. And the longer that we can remain in this plane of consciousness, then the longer that we can communicate with these beings, spirits, and entities that are remaining in and trying to communicate with us in this state of our being. This, by the way, is an intuitive understanding of the encounter that I had with Mother Ayahuasca, because it's not as if you physically speak to these beings and then they physically answer your questions. No, it's more of a psychic transference of thought that is taking place, where you can kind of already know what somebody's thinking the moment that you think a certain thought yourself. So if you were to think a certain thought, like a certain question, like, how can I meet other entities and beings like yourself? The answer becomes immediately clear once you are in the presence of one of these beings, because you're essentially understanding how that encounter itself is taking place, and then how that relates with what you would need to do in order to have those encounters with the other beings, entities, and spirits in other times going forward, if this was something that you wanted to do. So it became incredibly clear to me, not only because of that, but because I've had previous experiences of encountering what appeared to be entities and beings from alternate dimensions. And it was only when I was in an extremely relaxed state. My mind was clear, and that is what enabled the spirits, beings, and entities to enter into my presence. I allowed it to take place. But the thing that prevents us from actually encountering these beings is that we are unconsciously not allowing them. We are disallowing them because we're constantly distracting our minds with different thoughts, different activities, different emotions and feelings. But if we can clear our minds and rest our bodies, experiencing the present moment and allowing whatever's going to happen, then that is whenever you will have experiences that are very indicative of encountering extraterrestrial beings, spirits, and entities. And if you want to know an exercise that you can practice that will help you to reach that very peaceful and relaxing state at which you can encounter these beings in your experiences, then watch this video right here.